Hello everyone, Randy Harrington here. This video is going to be a live interview I did with a lady named Mrs. Scarborough who lived on a farm in Independence, Missouri. And the stories that she's talking about with the Bigfoots happened for a couple of years in the 1980s. Now, this is a lady I went to church with, and I actually told my version of this event from the interview, but this is actually her in her own words. If you want to go back and listen to the video or watch the video that I put out, it's called, Independence Farm, Missouri, or Bigfoot Activity on a Missouri Independence Farm. Uh, but anyways, this is Mrs. Scarborough's interview that I conducted while I was on her property, and you can hear it from her own mouth. Thank you.
You didn't see the house the other night.
No. Well, other than just walking through in the evening.
We had a big dance out here. They had the lights and they had the music and the dance. And then there was tents all over, and we had a big campfire.
About how many people were out here?
Let's see, we had about 18 teenagers and 6 chaperones.
Wow.
And Susie brought her projector out, and we had a movie on the deck. So they all set up and I had one of those screens. And
so was it church group?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all
maybe
the teenagers.
It was grandchildren.
Well, I'd always do that too, but this was most of them were my kids. We can handle a group. See my stainless steel.
Well, that's a big one.
Yeah. We can have the whole church out here. That storm kind of messed up everything.
You know what? Couldn't have picked a cooler day. Out of all the days we've had.
It was beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Today's going to be nice and cool. It's going to be a great day for a hike.
Well, right out here, right between those trees, my property line is this line right here. And there used to be a big strawberry farm there. And right straight through, there was no trees here. This has been, 25 years ago. You could see all the way to the road, and it was springtime. And there was a strawberry metal building. And we had this tetherball right out here. And every morning, the kids would get up, and they'd accuse each other of knocking the tetherball down. So I think it was a young one. Anyway, the tetherball kept getting knocked down. So James was getting ready for church, and he was right by this big window, and he yelled, "Dad, come here quick! Come here quick!" And Bigfoot, he came around the building, and James said he had his hand on the top of the building, so he's pretty tall. And there was no trees here and then the tree line, there was a field, strawberries. So the neat thing of it is, you always want to say he's an animal, but James said that he came around and he turned, and the dog was running at him, and he turned and he looked at the dog, and then he turned and ran into the trees.
Which was how far away from the trees?
Well, this tree line right here, and there was probably that much, our field, there was no trees here. But this tree line right here that goes all the way around the property.
Follows the creek?
Follows the creek all the way around. And so he ran into that. But so right here, James had a total open look at him.
Clear view.
Yeah, open look at him.
So it looked at the dog.
He turned and he looked at the dog, and the dog was probably at the end of our property. He didn't go all the way. And he was a big dog, and he was barking, and the creature turned and looked at the dog, and then he just went into the trees.
And he ran.
He didn't really run, James said. He just kind of like this.
Kind of low?
And no.
Just walked?
James said he ran like this, like a man. And he said his hair flopped here, and he had hair down here.
Wow. Well, yeah, that was one of the... I put down some questions that I wanted to ask you. And what kind of dog was it?
Ferocious was kind of a lab German Shepherd mix. About like this.
So, did the dog ever give you any indication when the animal was around?
Oh, yeah, a dog would bark at night, but never really, you know.
Always stayed close to the
Oh,
house?
yeah.
Now, did you ever have any dogs before and after that ended up getting killed?
Oh, no, no. This creature is not vicious.
Right. Right.
Now, Randy, all the studying I have done, even when they did that stupid film on him and portrayed him as vicious, they even came out and said that part was a hoax.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, there has been instances where people have witnessed them kill one of their dogs because the dogs was either too aggressive or gave away their location or those kind of things.
Well,
they're very secretive. They're very secretive. If a dog would kept running down and giving away their location and they're wanting to stay hidden.
Now, he turned and looked at the dog and just went on. Didn't even faze him on the dog. When Gene Oliver is a backwoodsman, he grew up in Arkansas. He's a hunter. And so when he was James's best friend, but he was about 10 years older than James because Gene always took him fishing and hunting and everything. So Gene was probably around 25 to 30 years old. But he came out and the footprints were 21 inches. Now these out here were like 18. Now we've seen two really clear footprints.
So Gene Oliver
he wanted to hunt him, and Ralph wouldn't let him on the property. He said, "No, you're not. You're not going to go out there with a gun."
That's amazing. Some people want to do that.
Yeah. Well, Gene just wanted to go hunting, and Ralph said no.
So that brings us up to Ralph. We never discussed Ralph much last time I was here. And what was Ralph's take on the whole situation and his views about it?
Ralph just admits that he is a creature.
Wow.
Because when that winter, there were footprints that went from all the way across our front. He had to have come up from back there. But it's interesting that the footprints was right across our front here. And he went all the way out, stepped over Dad's fence, and went up into the trees on the hill. So, and the footprints were big.
And lollygagged a little while in front of your window.
When Diane Brown's husband, see that field? A lot of times he loved to hunt arrows. And when it rains in a field, sometimes it washes them. So he was out there looking, and he came down, and right here, about where your truck is, on the other side, there was two of the most perfect footprints, and just looking in that window. But when you've got a fishbowl full of human beings, why not look? He was just sighted several times. The odor always came from back that way, but sometimes at night when the dogs would bark, Ralph and I would walk out, and you could smell like sulfur or rotten eggs. Just had a pungent smell.
So what's weird, we're talking 30 years ago. I was a child in the Worldwide Church of God.
Yeah.
And best friends with Brian George. And then little did I know that Christy George had seen one in the late 60s in Idaho. And of course, you guys had a discussion about it. Amber Bertolini came over here and said she sat up late one night, sat at the kitchen table talking about it.
Yeah.
As you know...
Let's go in and sit down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, my sighting is certainly much, much more recent.
Now, this patio was not classed in. This was our door, and this was the patio, and this was just ground back here. Tony and my son Bruce was about 2.5 years old. Just enough to talk. Not really talk. And they came around here, and again, this tree line right here.
Yeah.
Again, that tree line, and they come running around the house, into the house. Bobby Bricker and Ralph was sitting in there talking, and they was just beside the Cookie Monster, and Tony was just stuttering, And so Ralph and Bobby came out and looked. They heard a crack in the trees, but that was all they heard. And that was when I went to the library because I was a little concerned whether the kids would get taken, hurt, or whatever.
So their only description was as a
Cookie Monster, which describes him beautifully.
Yeah. And
Henry and the Hendersons.
so, do you recall the conversation with Amber? What was her take?
I really don't. Now, one I do, O.C. Prather's daughter lived in Canada. And she came out and we was talking to her about it. And she said, up in Canada, the Indians know they exist. And she said that the Indians that they were very friendly with, he always went fishing. But he had built this thing. And when he went fishing, he always left some fish up there for
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They've been known
So
to take
other
strangers full
people
of
have
fish.
seen it.
Yeah.
And then Janine Binger and Glenn, he was a state representative, and she was telling him about it. And by then you get tired of being, oh yeah,
Yeah.
And so she was laughing and telling about it, And he gets up and he says, Aunt Janine, he said, where does this lady live? And so he came down, he knocked on my door, and he said, lady, are you the one that's seen Bigfoot? And I said, why do you want to know? By then you quit being excited about it. You just, And he said, lady, he says, I just want to know somebody else that's seen it so that I know I'm not crazy, But he said that he had been up north of the river, and he was hunting, and he was up in the tree. And he said one walked right underneath the tree. And he said, I literally tried to quit breathing. So
that is a beautiful description of our behavior when we come in close contact with them. That's the way I was in my truck, just don't come up here, don't come up here. I mean, it's amazing that you would be so petrified when really you're just in awe.
Yeah. I used to come out here, we had a little fence, railing across here, and I'd say, Bigfoot, do you want some homemade bread? I said, I won't hurt you, And I would try to talk to him, which is silly.
No, it's not.
It's silly. But I thought, well, if he's around here, maybe on you human beings, And I would, late at night, I would come out on the porch and I would talk back toward the trees. But I did, this was just concrete here, and this here was open doors. And I had baked all that day. And I came home, and what did I tell you? There was 3 loaves missing.
Out of 10 or 12?
Yeah, because I baked 3 times a week, and I had 12 kids.
So would you go to the store to get some ingredients or something?
I left for some reason or another. I don't remember. And I left it on the table, just to cool. And took off, never thinking anything about it. I never locked my doors.
Right.
I grew up in Kansas City in the 40s and 50s. Never locked my doors. And I resent it, even to this day. Now that I'm alone, I do lock my doors. But
so when you came back, all you noticed was that the bread was gone. Nothing else. You didn't notice
just
a door ajar or anything.
The kids had come in or something, but they said they never touched it.
Wow.
So, but that I don't know for sure.
So the Gene Oliver, was he the guy that did the compression test to find out the weight of the animal?
No, when I went to the library, in the library there was this newspaper article, and it was called Sasquatch Incorporated, and the guy lived over, I think, in Grandview. And I called him, and I said, we've had sightings out here, and I really wanted to know. I said, do you think he's vicious? And then he made a point to come right out, and he said never had he heard of him being vicious. And the last sighting he had seen was down in Napoleon. But like you, he's never had an encounter. Well, now you have, but he'd never gotten close enough to have an encounter. But he did take the footprints. I showed him the footprints.
So he actually made a cast of the footprint?
He said he had so many casts that he didn't need them.
Okay. And what was his name?
I don't know.
Okay. But it was Sasquatch Incorporated?
And you'll find probably the article in the library.
Wow. So he determined by doing a soul compression test that the animal weighed 600 to 700 pounds with a 21-inch footprint?
No, he didn't do any of that.
Okay.
I don't know if we said that. No, he didn't do that.
Okay.
All he said, he's seen the 21-inch and the 17 or 18-inch footprints.
Okay.
But he did spend the night out here with his sound equipment.
Interesting. Did he report anything?
No, he never.
Okay, well, another one of the questions that I wanted to touch base on, and that is when James drew a picture and you guys took it in to talk to the minister about it. How did you approach the subject with your minister?
We didn't. Now, I went to Pasadena, and I took the picture with me. And Dr. Hay had always been an historian, and I thought he'd be interested in it, but he didn't even want to see it. So I don't know what happened to the picture, whether I left it out there or what. I just, through the years, I don't know what's happened to the picture.
Yeah. And you know,
he was trim. James drew him. He was not a scary-looking creature. In the book that you find at the library, the one guy said he had a telescope on his gun and he drew down to shoot. And he said he broke out in a cold sweat because he felt like it was human, that he almost shot a man.
Yeah.
Now, there's different, I've seen pictures but James said he didn't look, he just looked like a hairy creature. He had hair all over him. But now that's interesting if it flopped here.
Yeah.
When he ran. And
Well, I've read a report where somebody was on a stopped train up in Canada. They had stopped for technical reasons, and they watched a Bigfoot creeping through the woods, and he was hopping through the snow and looking at the train, and they saw the hair flay out on the snow. When it would hit the snow, the hair that was on his legs laying down would open up like bell bottoms onto the snow. So it's interesting all of these what these people pick up as far as descriptions. Okay, so the taking of food, the tether ball was probably the very first thing that came to y'all's attention that something was around here. The dog reaction. Okay, can you retell me the story of your son's friend and the tent incident?
Oh, the kids always camped out back here. And the boys were around the campfire. And sometime during the night, Randy Mason, and I was just telling him about that the other day, he works up here at Sears, but he didn't see anything or even think, well, they joked about it being. But he really was. I told him, I said, are you serious, boys? You're not just, none of you joking around. Because he was taken quite a ways. I mean, not a long way, but he was dragged in his sleeping bag. And they found him a ways from the campsite.
Did he make a big ruckus and scramble out of his sleeping bag to get back into camp? Or?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think he just woke up there.
Also, it might have drugged him slow. So that
I don't think he woke up. He just
woke up the next
doesn't
morning.
know how he was drugged.
Okay.
No, he was just away from the campsite.
And there's only 3 guys, right?
I forget how many of the boys was back there camping out. There might have been 3 to 5. I don't know.
And they're all 14 to 16-year-olds?
No, they were like 10, 12, 13.
Okay. So fairly young.
This is Lance and Britt's age, not James's age.
Okay.
You forget I have 12 of them.
Yeah. Wow. What a great story.
And that same spring, Independence on the radio, this lady said she's seen him out in her yard. And then that very same spring, down at the Lake of the Ozarks, he was sighted.
And Independence is what, 5 miles from here or less?
Oh my, yeah, it's just right over here.
Okay.
Right here.
Great. Well, there was something else I wanted to ask you about. One of your daughter's boyfriends had the sighting at the bridge.
Oh, my daughter's husband.
Oh, it's her husband.
Yeah, down at the bridge.
Were they just dating at the time? And
No, Skip, they lived up here on Crenshaw, and Skip was driving home, and he's seen it. Have you seen this bridge down here?
Have not.
Okay, there's a huge bridge down here, and he's seen him come up from around the bridge.
Well, when I was here...
Skip said he thought he'd been drinking too much.
Well, when I was here a month ago, they're saying that he stopped to throw out some empty beer cans out of the...
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Or he got home.
and the creature came up from under the bridge and stood up on the bank side and up past the railing and looked at him.
Yeah, that Skip did that, yeah.
Wow. Well, what I'm going to do is I am going to walk. It's about an eighth of a mile, isn't it, to the road to the bridge.
Oh, you can
I'm just gonna put on my hip waders boots, and I'm just gonna walk down to the bridge, and I'm just gonna go down to the creek. I'm just gonna follow the creek as long as I'm comfortable, and then I'll come back. I'm gonna take my camera. I'm just gonna look.
Okay. Well, they put a new bridge in since then.
Well, what's great about the travel routes never change. They down in creek banks, they can stay hidden. They can move. So if they use creek,
and you'll see it follows this creek.
Yeah.
It'll follow it right around here.
So even when they put new bridges and stuff in, actually the way
the creek hasn't changed.
Since it's rained, the last couple of days, it's going to be nice and muddy. Perfect for tracks. I mean, it's going to be muddy.
He hasn't been sighted for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I think they migrate through time.
Well, this may be true. This may be true. But I spoke to some guys that were clearing some gas lines on my property. I've got 22 acres, and I just asked them. I don't shy away from the fact that I've seen these creatures, and I talk to people about it, especially guys that work in the woods. And one of the guys there, I said, "Have you seen any strange animals, working in the woods?" And he said, "What do you mean, like black panthers or something?" And I said, "No." I said, "To be perfectly honest, I'm gonna say Bigfoot." I said, "I've seen Bigfoot in 2006." And a couple of the guys kind of chuckled, and I saw him look off into the sky for a minute, and he said, "It's funny that you say that." He said, "I was working in McLeod last year," and he said, "I was manning a hole. We were clearing a brush line, and it's some thick woods." And he said, "The way we man a hole is we dig these trenches, and we just leave a truck there all night to keep cattle and stuff from falling in these holes." Yeah. And he said, "So I'm sitting there in my truck, and he said around 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm dozing sitting there in the truck. And he said around 2 o'clock in the morning, I happened to look in my rearview mirror, and he said there was somebody standing behind my vehicle, about 100 yards behind the vehicle." And he says, "So I tapped my brakes so that they know that somebody's in the vehicle." Yeah. And he says they immediately skirted off to the left into the woods. And he said, "The woods were thicker than this here," as he pointed to my woods. Right. And I said, 2 o'clock in the morning, middle of the night, you catch a glimpse of somebody prying around, and they run off into the woods. I said, "Did they have a flashlight?" He said, "No." I said, "Do you think it was a person?" I mean, so I'm telling you, they may be very rare, but they're around. They are around, and they're very inquisitive. They're very curious. And creeks and river bottoms, especially the woods along rivers that never get touched for years, are perfect travel routes. So great places for someone like me to just walk.
This area over here has been built up, but along the creek bed, and then on the hill, Crenshaw Road. But this is pretty much still like it was years ago.
Did you hear the WDAF Channel 4 news report from 2 weeks ago from Lee Summit? I followed this creek on Google Maps, and it goes right to this farm. There's a goat farm where something's been killing their goats, and they don't know what it is. Been killing them at night silently, ripping them in half. And they've got game officials out there with game cameras trying to figure out what it is. And it's only 5 miles from here, following this creek. So you know what it sounds like to me? An older Bigfoot who can't catch a deer anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because they had a cow that was done that way.
Where like a leg is ripped off and things like that.
At that time, too, a cow was.
So Susie was telling me at one time her and her brothers were riding a bike, and they heard a scream, and the brothers just took off, and she was pedaling as fast as she could.
Yeah, the guy from Sasquatch Incorporated said they had kind of a high scream like a woman, like a cat, or kind of a high-pitched scream.
Yeah, and then I thought maybe she said the next day was when they found the dead cow over there at your neighbor's.
Yeah, it was. That's what it was. Yeah, I remember that now. I had forgotten that. And that was up on Henderson's property, where all those houses are now.
Okay. Well, the thing is, just on Memorial Weekend, which was last weekend, I went down to Oklahoma, in the area that I've been researching for 7 years. Got one on film down there, and had the walkie-talkie returned to us under a pile of rocks. Mm-hmm. So this last time I went there, I set a tent up between the two rock piles in October that returned the two gifts back to us. Yeah. So in the woods, I put a tent up around 9 o'clock, and I put a recorder in the floor of the tent and zipped it all up and then left it. Oh. I checked the recorder the next day, and about 33 minutes after I left, you hear footsteps, you hear rocks pinging the tent, and all kinds of things. So we know they're around, and we know and they come around and see what's going on.
Yeah.
They don't hang around for very long, but that's just their nature. And I'm still excited about it, and thank you so much for opening up everything that has happened out here. I enjoy it so much, and I'm very much looking forward to walking that creek. Even if nothing happens, it's
Lonnie, I may not be here.
That's okay. That's good.
I just leave your truck there.
Yeah, I brought an extra pair of clothes, and if I get sweaty and stuff, I'll just change right there at my truck and then head on out when I'm done.
Because there's no houses around.
Yeah, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
So.
Fantastic. And I will certainly let you know if I find something.
Okay.
If I find something, I know you'll want to know. But I got my camera. I'll take pictures.
Keep an eye out for arrowheads, too. This was a settled area of the Indians.
Okay.
Diane Brown's husband found several Indian, spears.
Wow. Okay. Well, if I finish the creek early enough, I may walk the edge of some of these fields just to look for any prints that, any stray prints that you never know. You never know.
Well, this field here has just been plowed, so just
Yeah.
kind of step across those trees and kind of look, if you want to.
All
Now,
right.
my property is just an acre wide and 6 acres deep.
Okay. And it started out 100 acres.
Ralph's dad has 50 acres on this side and 50 on the other.
So right now.
No.
Okay. So that's
No,
what it was originally.
Dad's passed on, and that property there has all been sold.
Okay. So originally it was just 100 acres, all surrounded with farmland and woods.
Yeah.
Nice little oasis.
Yeah, Dad's property went from Pink Hill Road over there to 50 acres on this side.
Mm. Well, that is quite a ways because
Well, the Scarboroughs have been here since the 1800s. Great-grandpa William came here with 2 little boys, George and Harrison. Up on the hill is a beautiful 18th century home, one of those big 2-story 18th century homes. And my dad was born there, and Ralph was born there, and so old family in Blue Springs.
Well, all right. Well, I can't wait to do this.
And it was at this point that I went out on her property and did a little hike, followed a creek, went through some fields looking for footprints and things like that. Went all the way down to that bridge that was mentioned, and then came back on the road. So I spent a couple hours out there walking around and just taking a look at the property. Did not find any evidence at all. So, and if you listen to the other story that I tell on my YouTube channel, that there was that weekend a news report about a farm in Liberty, which was 5 miles down that creek, where some goats from a goat farm were being systematically killed. Every couple of days, every few days, they were finding goats killed. And I just find that interesting. They were calling it the goat mangler, where they had game officials come out and try to use game cameras to figure out what was doing the killing of these goats from the goat farm, and they could not catch it on game cam. So that in itself was interesting to me, being on the same creek 25 years after the fact. And who knows, could have been an older, decrepit Bigfoot that finally reached its limit of chasing down live deer and had to resort to going to easier prey, such as goats on a goat farm. Okay, thank you. I'd like to add in there that if you go back and listen to the original video that I put out talking about the Missouri farm Bigfoot incident, you'll notice there's going to be a few degrees difference between her descriptions of it and when I told the story. But the difference is, after I had this interview with her, all of her kids came in from out of state in different places, and I met every one of them there and got each one of their versions of the things that happened on that farm within that 2-year span. So I got a slightly different versions from them, as opposed to the mother retelling the events that the children lived through. So there are going to be slight differences in her telling and when I told the story. When I told the story, I had all the information from every one of the kids, and she had 12 kids. So there was a lot of different stories that she had to stay on top of as far as the details of. So there are going to be slight differences in the tellings of the story, but they all, have the same story underneath. So I hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. I was very happy to find this interview, or yeah, where I just had a recorder going while I was out there talking to her. So I'm glad to share this with you. Thank you.